See, that's how you get the fans hype. Sit on the couch, have a few drinks, a few sodas. Promised them that I wouldn't be too biased. Best idea for anybody listening to this: pick everything that I'm picking against. Welcome back to Tyler's Tailgate Talk. Back again this week for week 11, episode 11 of the pod. We got a big week this week as we have new college football rankings coming out. We got some big top 25 games this week, some big games atop the Big Ten standings, some big games atop the Big 12 standings, some big games all around. SEC has got some good action this week. All around the college football world, we've got some big headline games that we'll get into in just a minute. Let's start off talking about the college football playoff rankings because they did just come out this week. The new rankings came out this week. Not a whole lot of changes from what we saw in the initial ones last week. But one big one that I did want to point out, last week, obviously, Michigan State falling to Purdue. And we see Michigan State drop down to number 7 in the ranking. Now, normally you'd figure that would be normal, but you look ahead to number 6 in the ranking and you have Michigan. Now, what we learned last week is that the College Football Playoff Committee really values those head-to-head matchups, right? The Oregon versus Ohio State game, Oregon obviously won, so Oregon is number 3 and Ohio State's number 4. We look down the list a little bit. The SEC interconference games that we saw earlier on in the season, the Ole Misses, the Texas A&Ms, and the Auburns. Last week, we saw whoever won those respective matchups would be ahead of the others. Going down the list a little bit more, a couple of the ACC games with Pitt and NC State, those played themselves out. But Michigan State was a big game 2 weeks ago in the college football world, in the Big Ten world. And I mean, it was supposed to be a game where we would really see maybe a playoff contender come out of it. And now we're seeing that the game really didn't even matter. I mean, the playoff committee basically put Michigan over Michigan State, despite Michigan State winning that head-to-head game. Michigan was controlling the game most of the game, and it did come down to a Michigan State comeback and Kenneth Walker basically putting the game on his back for the Spartans to pull that one off. But yeah, Michigan State lost to Purdue. Yeah, both teams are 8-1, but you have that head-to-head to go off of. So, I mean, why even, my thinking is why even play the games? You have the best way to rank two teams against each other is head-to-head matchups, because the best team will win the game, obviously. And when you have those two teams sitting 6 and 7, especially back-to-back, you should go off of the head-to-head because obviously you have a clear-cut best team out of the two. And the committee showed that that's just not how they're thinking about it. Gary Barta said on the show on Tuesday night that that him and the committee were talking about it for half an hour. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, if you got to take half an hour to think about this and you still come to the wrong conclusion, maybe you're doing it wrong. Maybe you got to think about it for 3 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours. Think about it all night for all I care. Get the decision right. I mean, this is just insane to think about how these two teams are reversed and how they should be. Now, aside from that, the conference will basically play itself out. Michigan still has a game against Ohio State. So we'll get a winner and a loser out of that game. Obviously, Michigan winning would put them ahead of Michigan State with that value win over Ohio State. And Ohio State winning, Michigan losing would bump Michigan down with 2 losses. So it'll play itself out a little bit. Looking ahead at Michigan State's schedule, they do also still have to play Ohio State. So they have Maryland this week, and then they play Ohio State in Columbus, and then return back home to play Penn State to wrap up the season. So we're going to see a lot of changes at the top, a lot of changes in the playoff standings. Ohio State's got a tough schedule up ahead. playing obviously Michigan State. They also have Purdue this week, which we will definitely get into because Purdue is one of the hottest teams in college football right now. And I mean, this game is just turning into an upset for the ages if Purdue can pull this one off. Looking down the rankings a little bit more, Oklahoma still sitting at number 8. That's still a lot lower than what they should be. The AP currently has them at 4, which I like. I like Oklahoma at 4. Definitely should be higher than 8. I think it's tough because if you put them over either Michigan or Michigan State, those teams are pretty evenly ranked. So you'd have to put them over both of them. But Oklahoma 9-0, they're playing in a Power 5 conference. I'm not really understanding what the thinking is. They have played close games, but so is Cincinnati. Cincinnati's ranked number 5 in their group of 5. So Oklahoma sitting at 8, that doesn't really make much sense to me. But obviously, they've got a big game this week against Baylor, so we'll see how that plays out. Going down a little bit further, Notre Dame at 9. I think that's pretty much as far out as you can be right now with a chance at the playoff. Actually, Texas A&M sitting at 11. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Texas A&M has a chance to win the SEC West with a win. They win out. Now, looking ahead at their schedule, they've got Ole Miss, Prairie View, and then LSU. And Alabama still has New Mexico State, Arkansas, and then Auburn. So let's say Alabama slips up against Auburn, which is very possible. Auburn's been playing great football lately. They slip up. Texas A&M swoops in there. They go to Atlanta, play Georgia. Let's say, God forbid, Texas A&M takes down Georgia. Now, where are you at? You've got a Texas A&M team that has 2 losses. 1 loss to Arkansas, who was at the time ranked 16th, and then a loss to an unranked Mississippi State. So, but you do have valuable wins over number 1 ranked Alabama, a valuable win over number 13 Auburn, a team that, if everything works out in this situation, would then beat Bama. So obviously a big win there. A win against Ole Miss, who's currently ranked 15th this week. And then looking ahead at the SEC championship, a win over number 1 Georgia. I mean, I can't remember the last time a team beat 2 different number 1 overall teams in the same year before the playoff. Like, before the playoffs even get started, this could happen for Texas A&M. Would the playoff committee keep them out? Probably, with 2 losses. Would it be a big talking point? Absolutely. Again, that's a perfect scenario that has every situation going right for them. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in that schedule, but if it does play out that way, obviously a big talking point would be had. Going down the rankings a little bit more, obviously outside of A&M, I don't see anybody even having a chance. I mean, Wake Forest is no longer undefeated. They're sitting 8-1 with a loss to North Carolina last week. Baylor's got a big game coming up against Oklahoma. Outside of that, you're just looking at teams possibly hoping to win a conference championship. Obviously, UTSA still undefeated. They're not going to have a chance at the playoff, obviously, but an undefeated season out of UTSA is also going to have people talking about what could have been if the playoffs were to be expanded. UTSA is currently sitting 23rd in the college football playoff rankings, but number 15 in the AP poll. So, interesting note. Outside of that, nothing of note. Mississippi State getting 17 votes to be in the top 25, but they haven't shown anything outside of Will Rogers being Will Rogers, which is insane. But moving on, we mentioned Texas A&M having a shot at the playoff. we do have college basketball. Now, a lot of people may not know, but this is a college sports show. We don't just cover college basketball. We don't just cover college football. We also cover college basketball. Now, what I'm going to do, probably because we're right in the thick of things in the college football world, I'll probably hold off on basketball for a little bit at least until we start getting into conference play. I mean, we'll take note of any big games. Obviously, we had a couple big games this week, but any big games I'll cover. But outside of that, I'm not covering NJIT versus Kentucky. Right? That's not happening. We've got too much college football talk to cover. So college basketball on the back burner for now. But come December, come January, especially once we reach the end of college football season, college basketball season is going to be right in the prime of the regular season. So we'll definitely have to cover that going forwards to the conference championships. But with that being said, I will cover 2 games, college basketball this week. Number 3, Kansas did take down Michigan State, a big win for the Jayhawks. Rock Chalk Jayhawk over Michigan State Spartans. Michigan State unranked, and they'll stay that way with the loss to Kansas. Number 9 Duke did take down number 10 Kentucky in Coach K's start of the end for Coach K, the start of the farewell tour. Kentucky and Coach Cal starting 0-1 once again on the season. So Coach Cal and the Wildcats not a stranger to starting the year off slow, but we've obviously all seen what they can do come the month of March. So again, it's just overreactions at this point. College basketball right now means absolutely nothing. But anyway, let's get into some locks for this week, because we didn't do well last week. We didn't do well the week before that. We need a bounce back week, big time. Tailgate Locks, the segment where I give you all of my locks for the week so that you know everything to bet against, because obviously I'm terrible. We'll start off in the Big Ten. Michigan taking on Michigan State. Michigan taking on Penn State. That game already happened. So Penn State taking on Michigan. This game is a 1.5 point spread in favor of Michigan. Michigan favorites by 1.5. Give me Michigan minus the 1.5. I think this team is way too good to play against Penn State and lose. 1.5 is pretty close to a pick 'em in college football. I mean, if you get a 1.1 loss, that's just going to be pretty rough for Penn State. So I see Michigan covering this easily. Second lock I've got. First time I've gone unranked in a long time. Probably I can look back. It's been a while. UMass UConn? No. Oh, it's 2 weeks ago. Buffalo and Bowling Green. Yeah, I wrote Buffalo way too hard there. Yeah, second lock I've got for the week. Sorry. UCF taking on SMU, Tanner Mordecai at quarterback. The over-under on this game is 61. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Tanner Mordecai has 35 touchdowns this year, which is absolutely unreal. If this game gets to like SMU is going to win this game, but if they can get to 40, I think that UCF can definitely get to that 20-21 range that they need to cover this over. So I definitely feel like that could absolutely happen. I don't see defenses playing well at all in this game. So I'm going to take the over of 61 points in UCF and SMU. Third lock I've got for the week. Do I want to do this? Yeah, I'm going to do it. Fuck it, I'm going to do it. Yeah, number 19, Purdue, taking on number 4, Ohio State. Purdue has 2 wins against number 3 ranked teams this year. First coming earlier in the year, against Iowa. And then this past week, obviously, coming against Michigan State. Purdue is 21-point dogs to Ohio State. I'm taking that 21 points. Give me Purdue covering as an underdog plus 21. I think that's a lock. I think this game's going to be close. Ohio State played a close-ish game against Indiana last week. Against Nebraska last week, a game that cannot be overlooked. If you're an Ohio State fan, this is definitely a game that you worry about, as Purdue has absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. They're looking for their third top 4 win of the year. Give me the Boilermakers plus 21 points. Last game I got in the locks. I didn't think of it. I would ever do this, but I'm going to do it. We've got some unique locks this week, and I don't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're desperate. We've gone 2-6 combined the last 2 weeks after a 4-0 week 8. We gotta do it. We gotta do it. Give me New Mexico State taking on number 2 ranked Alabama. Typo there by me. That's a wishful typo. New Mexico State taking on number 2 ranked Alabama. Alabama favored by 51 points, the biggest spread of the week across the college football slate. Give me New Mexico State plus 51 points. I can't remember the last time Alabama outscored a team by that much. I remember back in April when the official schedule came out, this game actually opened up at a 74-point spread, the biggest point spread in college football history. Obviously, it's went down a good 23 points, but Alabama still favored 51 points. I don't see them covering 51. I don't know if they score 51. Mexico State is a terrible football team, but Alabama has struggled the past few weeks. I don't know if Nick Saban's going to get on with practice, but I think for New Mexico State to cover, they just need to score. I think that's all they need to do. I think they can do that. So New Mexico State plus 51. Lock those in. Those are my 4 locks of the week. I hope those cover because we've not been doing good. I mean, so looking back at the last 2 weeks, like week 9, we went 1-3. Our only win was Wake Forest minus 16 points, which covered easily. They covered that by 38. And then last week, it might be the first time I've ever hit an under. Georgia playing Missouri. The over-under on that was 59.5. We took the under and they scored 49. So obviously that was a big win. Everything else has been absolutely dog shit. Bama couldn't cover last week. Ole Miss and Liberty were struggling to score. Wake Forest lost by 3. We had Wake Forest plus 2.5. And they lost by 3. That's the kind of weeks I've been having. This is what we're dealing with now in week 11. So those are my locks for the week. Hopefully those hit because I'd like another 4-0 week. I've been missing out too much. We got to get back on track. I believe we are 14-13 overall. So just hovering over that 500 mark. We got to definitely grow that lead over the 13. So with those being the locks, we've still got big games to look for. Obviously, you can hammer in those locks, give you some rooting interest in those games, but we've got some big games coming up with playoff stipulations. The game I'm looking at first, obviously Purdue and Ohio State. If Ohio State loses that game, that opens the door wide open for Michigan State to just run in there. Big Ten championship could be on the line on Saturday with Ohio State. If they go down, they're out of the playoffs. That would give them 2 losses. So big game for them. Purdue, obviously, like I said, nothing to lose. They've gone in, they've beaten Michigan State, they've beaten Iowa, they've done what they've had to do. They're a good football team. I think this is going to be a good game. Obviously, what did I say? The spread was 19.5. Yeah, they're covering that 21 easily. Next game I'm looking at, give me number 11 Texas A&M taking on number 15 Ole Miss. This game is going to be great. Matt Corral is back and healthy. Texas A&M is looking so good right now. I'm just pulling up the game real quick. Texas A&M has looked good ever since their win over Alabama. They're on a roll. Some big wins last week. Big win last week over Auburn, 20-3. Defense has been coming up big for them. I like their chances in this game if they go into Mississippi and take down Ole Miss. That's not going to look good for Matt Corral with another loss on his resume, and Texas A&M might sneak into that top 10. Like I said earlier, that chance that they could possibly sneak into the SEC championship and then have a shot, an argument at the playoff, all rides on Saturday. So it all could go down Saturday. It all could survive Saturday. We'll see. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, going to be a good one. Next one I'm looking at, NC State in the ACC, taking on number 12, Wake Forest. Obviously, Wake Forest taking their first loss of the season last week against North Carolina, but still looking pretty damn good, if I do say so. Just pulling up the ACC standings real quick. My computer sounds like it's about to lift off. ACC standings. Yeah. So they're battling in the ACC Atlantic for this one. Wake Forest sitting at 5-0. Didn't they just lose to North Carolina? How does that make any sense? Wake Forest just lost to North Carolina. They were lost by 3. I know that. I lost the bet. I know they lost. Sam Howell, Sam Hart. It was my game of the week last week. And I'm looking at the standings and it says Wake Forest is 5-0 in conference play. How does that make any sense? I don't know. This is weird. So I guess never mind then. Not for the ACC Atlantic. I know it would be. Yeah, I'm sorry, it would be. Yeah, Wake Forest, they win. They're in the ACC championship game. Obviously, NC State, they win. Still need some help to get in, but they win out and they're in. So obviously not playoff contenders anywhere in the ACC, but Wake Forest looking to get back into that top 10, looking for that New Year's 6. So we'll be looking for that with Wake Forest, the number 12. The final game I'm looking forward because this is going to be a good one, whether people say it or not. Number 6, Michigan taking on Penn State. Now, this game is going to be interesting because we do have the Ohio State game earlier in the day. So we'll know the result of that game before we know the result of this game. I'm just going to confirm that real quick. Ohio State Purdue is at 2:30 Central. That is my time, 2:30. And then, oh, sorry, this game is first. This game is at 11 o'clock in the morning. Great. Michigan taking on Penn State, 11 a.m. game. So we'll know this game before the Ohio State game. Big game in the Big Ten as Michigan's trying to get into that upper echelon in the Big Ten East, sitting in 3rd place in the Big Ten East, trying to get to that Big Ten championship. It's interesting because this is really the Big Ten, like Ohio State winning this game. Okay, they survive another week. They go down Michigan State maybe goes down. Michigan beats Penn State. I'm sorry, Michigan goes down. Michigan State moves up. With Michigan's loss to Penn State, Michigan State could still be looking at a playoff opportunity if they win the Big Ten championship. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan still need to play, but it's all going to come down to that Michigan State, Ohio State. I mean, the Big Ten is just wild right now. I mean, no one knows anything. All we know is that Michigan State is better than Michigan, whether the committee likes it or not. But my game of the week this week, all that being said, is Oklahoma versus Baylor. Oklahoma coming in needs a statement win. They need it. They're sitting at number 8 right now. They need to get back. They need to get up there into that top 4. How do they do that? They need a statement win. Baylor, third best team in the Big 12 right now. I don't think you can really argue that. Maybe the second best team if you don't like Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma needs this win over Baylor to say, look, we can beat a good team, maybe even a convincing win, maybe a blowout win. Would definitely bump them up some of the rankings, especially with that Big Ten scenario. That's all going to pan out. Those teams are going to lose football games. One of those teams might be a 3-loss team. We don't know. But Oklahoma needs the state to win over Baylor. And Baylor, I mean, they got nothing to lose. They're not really looking. They're probably not looking at a Big 12 championship unless everything goes their way. So they've got nothing to lose. Let's play spoiler to the conference bully in Oklahoma. Why not? So Oklahoma, Baylor, that's my game of the week. That's the games that you need to look out for. We'll go through the tailgate locks again. We got Michigan State -1.5 against Penn State. Take the over in UCF versus SMU at 61. Purdue getting 21 points at Ohio State. Definitely hammer that one. I feel good about that one. And then New Mexico State getting 51 points against number 2 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That's a lock. So we'll see you next week. Week 12 next week, we've got some big games next week. We've got some small games, but all games matter at the end of the day because it's college football, and the college football playoff committee hates everybody, and they will take everything against you, and they will take every single game you play and use it against you no matter what. So I'll see you next week. Enjoy the games on Saturday. Go check out the shop in the link. The link is in the description below. Go check out the shop. Go shop, go buy everything. Please, I worked hard on it. All the stuff looks great. Definitely well worth it. And everything's cheap too, so there's no excuse. Go check out Washed Up Sports Podcast. The boys do a really good job with that. They work really hard. I mean, one of the best shows on the internet right now. So go check that out. I'll see you next week. Enjoy your Saturday. Sit back, relax, and watch some college football. Adios.
Hey guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel and subscribe. Make sure to follow our Instagram and maybe consider subscribing on Patreon for our bonus content. You can only find it there. I promise it will be well worth it. Thanks.